My friends, hello. Welcome back for some more DLC action and oxygen not included. There's a lot that's happened since the last video. This is going to be an update from that one, and we're going to go on a little bit of an adventure, or at least prepare for one. And what has happened since the last video was our goal was to get entirely off all of our polluted dirt for oxygen, so we're down to just this much. But we do have our oxygen set up here and ready to go. This is something that I've showed in other videos. That's kind of a setup that I really like, that's really basic, it does the job. It kind of is really easy for newer players to pick something like this up. So this is a setup that I really like, that's distributing oxygen. There were a lot of other stuff that went on here just to make us fully sustainable. So our chamber for Drecos is up here, and by the way, I got a little bit overzealous with how much hydrogen I was putting in here. And again, I don't know that this is really worth it. I talked about this a little bit, and then I felt bad immediately afterward about how I don't typically put hydrogen in here, only because I think that the scale growth is just not worth all the extra fuss. I'm still fine with that opinion, but I just decided to do it here anyway, just because a lot of people do talk about this, of like, why would you not put the hydrogen in there? This is kind of part of the reason why. It can be a little bit difficult to manage if you don't have everything set up just the right way. And that's what's happening here. So I'm going to need to kind of overpressurize this a little bit, or do something that's a little bit more fancy to handle this. It does work a little bit better if you have them in more open air. So for something like this, which I don't have the right body temperature for this stuff, I need to definitely fix up this area a little bit whenever I do get the plastic producing Drecos. But yeah, something like this I think is a little bit more doable because the pressure isn't so fussy. And if a little bit of hydrogen happens to get out and kind of go out elsewhere on the map, that's not the biggest of deals. I can always re-vacuum this out, but this is also kind of a negligible amount of hydrogen. But yeah, I got some of this stuff set up. So my oxygen, my water, and my food are all totally renewable right now, so we shouldn't need to worry about that for the rest of the game. And at least we can move on to some other stuff. So what I did, and what I was talking about last video as well, was I went to this star map, and I went to the other asteroids, and I researched as many places as I could find, and then it just kind of stopped. There's no more progress being made here, and the reason why is because if we go back to... I always have a hard time getting out of this menu, by the way. If we go back to here and we look at this, it says, oh, we've explored as much as we can possibly see from here. Which is interesting, and that means that there's more that we have to do. So what I was thinking in the last video was... oh, am I just going to have to fly out here or something and try to do some exploration on my own? Like, will tiles reveal themselves out here? I was partway right, and I wanted to do a little bit of research before I actually committed to doing something like that in a real run. And it turns out the solution is that you are supposed to build telescopes inside your rockets so that you can go out and do some exploring and scouting that's like further away. So... yeah, I've been kind of preparing for that, and we will get to that in just a bit where we start building our setup for that. I'm going to try to build a setup that's like very sustainable for a couple of duplicates for a long time. I'm also going to talk about rockets just a little bit, because I feel like we kind of glazed over that when that happened. I may also put out another video on this at some point that's like, what are the best rockets to use, but since it's so early in the DLC, I'm going to kind of summarize it right now. Or at least in this video, but yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. Some other things that happened, I know there was, somebody in my comments kept asking about Saturn critter traps, and I did find a couple of seeds kind of down in this area on this asteroid. So I dug out a bunch of this, I found a few seeds. I have not started using them yet, so if you are the person that's looking for those Saturn critter traps, I just barely got them back to my main base, which is where I'm going to start using them. So I apologize, I didn't even know what those were for a little while. And I know you've been very diligent about asking about them. I promise I will get to those in the next video. So that will contain Saturn critter traps along with all the adventures that we're about to go on. So, let's start preparing for that adventure, looking at some of the things that we were doing. By the way, in this whole adventure of trying to figure out how to find more asteroids, because I know there's more out there on the star map, I tried to dig around the other areas to see if I was missing something and to see if maybe there was a teleporter on one of these. So I have revealed every asteroid right now. At least I can see everything that's on there. So this is basically what the like radioactive-ish type of asteroid looks like. Random little ice pocket down here. All this is very cold. A bunch of buildings that aren't in use right now. So that's what's going on here. Note that there is no water production here, so this is not really a place that's sustainable, so there's no reason for me to be here anymore, so I've definitely abandoned this for the time being. Same thing with this other asteroid. There's no water production here as far as I could see, so I can see the whole map here as well. It's basically all oil, very hot stuff, and some salt water, some temperate biome, that kind of stuff. So I was here for a little bit just to do the exploring that needed to be done, and to get down in the oil biome just to see if I was missing anything, and nope, this is pretty much it. So that's all discovered. That's also abandoned. We're back to just our original asteroid, where we actually do have water being produced naturally, meaning that we can be sustainable here. So that's where we are right now. Let's just move straight into what we were going to talk about with the rockets. So one thing that's a little bit interesting about these rockets is if you take a look at these, you can see the range that you have on these, and you can see the rocket speed of like how fast they go. This is a little bit weird right now. There's a set of rockets that I don't understand. As far as I understand, there's only two different types of engines. There's sugar engines, and there's carbon dioxide engines. So I'm just going to go ahead and build the other ones just so we can kind of demonstrate this. Whoops. Here we go. And what I figured was that sugar was a little bit harder to come by than carbon dioxide, so I figured that the sugar was probably a better idea, but I actually just don't think that that's true. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate what I had learned in my own little testing here. In the meantime, what I figured out is that we're going to start advancing past this just a little bit. Let's put on a oxidizer tank just for the fun of it. So what I figured out is that you can definitely load up these engines. They don't take a lot of sugar. But the funny thing is that once you load them up, they still don't get any range on them. So I think these are actually worse than the carbon dioxide engines from what I can tell, which is weird because I thought that would be the other way around. I would figure that the sucrose engines would be a little bit stronger. Here's one that's filled up all the way. I still have 0 range on this rocket, meaning I can't even take off. So the next thing to do is to add these oxidizers. And as far as I can tell, this has a smaller effect than just having a carbon dioxide engine on this. So that confused me also. I don't feel like any of this is tuned the way it's intended right now. So yeah, and if I were to add some other stuff here, which by the way, we'll get to this in just a second, but these carbon dioxide powered engines can only handle 3 modules. So if I were to have something like a Spacefarer module, which I'm going to need to do additional exploration, and one of these basic nose cones, I can't add anything else. So I've already reached the maximum distance that I can get off of these rockets right now. Let me start adding some fertilizer in here as oxidizer. And here's an intuitive thing that I thought from the last time, or rather from the base game. So from the base game, what would happen is your rocket fuel was supposed to match the amount of oxidizer that you had. So I was like, oh, okay, 300 kilograms of sucrose. Yeah, okay, let's make 300 kilograms of oxidizer. Okay, that sounds okay. And there's also 2 options here. There's fertilizer and oxalite. So I went ahead and loaded up with fertilizer, and now let's see the range. Oh, what? Still 0. Yeah, so that kind of confused me. So I was like, okay, let's just keep adding fertilizer and see what happens. So I'm just going to have duplicates run up here and keep demonstrating the way I was kind of learning this while I was exploring. And I just feel like these sugar engines are just totally not worthwhile. Alright, so now we have 700 kilograms of fertilizer. Now we're at 1 range. Okay, cool. We can go 1 tile, which is basically putting something in orbit, as far as I understand. Which doesn't do anything, but okay. Gonna continue to fill this up now that we're at 800 kilograms. And I don't expect us to dramatically change with this small of an increase. I'm just gonna keep adding to it. There we go. 2 tiles now at 900. So then I thought, alright, maybe this is how we get further. Let's just keep adding fertilizer here. Let me add a bunch here. Let's add another module just so we can see what the difference between the oxalite and the fertilizer was. Because this was my whole thought process. And spoiler alert, I already know the answer. I'm just trying to walk through it for somebody that wants to explore this or was thinking about the same thing on their own. The spoiler alert is that the sugar engines, I don't get it. I don't understand what they're for right now. And I don't feel like they are tuned appropriately. I feel like sucrose should be a little bit harder to come by, and therefore, and is also going to interact with this oxidizer tank, so I feel like that should be a lot more valuable than it is right now. Or I'm just totally missing something, I don't know. So let's just ask for the max amount here, and hopefully get these filled up here pretty soon. I'm going to ask for oxalite on this one, thinking that, you know what, maybe oxalite is better, and let's just start off with the same thing we did before, like 900, which is where we saw this one change. So right now we have no oxidizers inside this rocket. Let's go ahead and fill it up with some. And we'll be able to see the capacity here. We're at a little bit over 1,000. Some of it fell out, that's fine. As a whole bunch of duplicates are bringing it out here and just drop it on the ground. But yeah, the range is the same. So as far as I can tell, oxalite's a little bit more difficult to produce because this machine requires plastic and refined gold. But the range is the same. So my next thought was, well, let's just max these guys out and see what happens. All right, give me 2,700 kilograms. As far as I can tell, the fertilizer and the oxalite do the exact same thing. So I'm just going to keep loading this up and see what happens. And yeah, we're now maxed out on oxalite, and we still have the same amount of range. It's also the same amount of rocket speed, the module burden, and everything like that. Or, sorry, the max modules and everything like that is all the same. So I just don't know what this does. I just don't get it. So I just basically resolved to, we can only afford carbon dioxide engines in order to expand or explore a reasonable amount. And their range is only 4 tiles, from what I understand. I can't add anything else on here because I have to have this Spacefarer module in order to continue to explore. But yeah, that was something weird that I saw with rockets. So I do have 4 rockets here, both for testing purposes, but also because we're going to go on a fun adventure, and let's get that started. So my thought, and this is what I'm probably going to wind up doing in the next video because we do need a little bit more setup time. But my thought is that the range on these is maybe 4 tiles. I'm going to not look it up in advance and see if it can go there and back with 4 tiles, or if it can only travel 4 tiles total. I am not sure what that means. So what I'm going to do, this is probably really dumb, and it's intentionally really dumb just because we're going to go on a silly adventure and maybe cause a bunch of problems for ourselves. I'm going to go as far as I can with each of these rockets. So I'm going to send one here, maybe like one here. I will refuel here, by the way. Maybe like one there, and maybe like one here. Something like that. I'm going to send out 4 in all different directions. They're all going to be exploring at the same time. And if they can't make it back to any of my planets, then we're going to see if we can rescue them. And if we can't, we are going to be an extremely unsuccessful space program and just strand them out in space. We don't have to do it this way. We could be more cautious, but you know what? Screw that. You only get one chance to be a noob at a DLC, so I'm going to take that chance by definitely making a lot of really silly and dumb mistakes when I don't have to. So yeah, that's the plan. The other plan here is that the duplicates that are going to be sending out to travel might need to be out there for a little while, so I need to come up with some kind of setup for all of these rockets to allow them to live out there for a little while without encountering any major problems, without burning a bunch of resources. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and view the interior, and you can see some materials here from test builds that I did before that I didn't really like, but I think I've come to a conclusion as far as what I want to do here. So we need a handful of things at minimum, and I'm going to pause here just because this is going to look like a mess, but I want to walk through this build that I think was kind of cool, that we're going to try out on all 4 rockets and just kind of see how long we can stay out there. So what I would need to do is I need to grab a telescope from this rocketry. As far as I understand, I need to place it next to one of these windows so it actually has view into space. I don't know if it needs to be on one side or the other. I don't know if that matters, so we're just going to find out when we're out there. So I'm going to build something that's going to have a telescope inside it. It'll have a bathroom. It'll have a power station. It'll have some stuff to deal with carbon dioxide. It'll have something to allow us to produce or put oxygen in here and produce a little bit afterwards. This is going to be as close to fully sustainable as I can think of and still be like comfortable. There's some hacky stuff I could do to make this work, but I just wanted to come up with a really silly build to do this. So let's start building this out. So we need space for the actual telescope, so I'm going to put it here. And then what I need is a bunch of other stuff. My thought was that if I was out here in this tiny enclosed space for a really long time, if I have any buildings that are going to be producing heat, that means that this is going to get pretty hot. So my thought is, why don't we just take a bunch of water with us? So I was going to fill up something like this. And then I was going to have some mesh tiles here so that we could fill it up with some water and just kind of have it sit in this corner. So This is going to be basically like a small water pit. I'm going to have it empty maybe here. There might be some tweaks that we need to do as we kind of evaluate this. And then a way to get up and down, just because it needs to be functional. There's a lot of silly stuff we could do here to make it not functional, and that's fine. And it also helps us save a little bit of space, but you know what? This is good enough. So what I need here is, in order to actually circle or cycle this water that's going to help keep us cool a little bit, I need to pipe some stuff around. But I want to make sure to avoid any piping for my bathrooms or anything like that. And yes, we are going to have a plumb toilet in space, so let's do this. Alright, let's start hooking this up. And then you got to think, okay, there's going to be wastewater that comes out of here. Should I purify it, or what should I do? I think my answer is going to be that I'm not going to purify it. I'm just going to dump it on the ground, which sounds pretty silly, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Another thing that we also need is we need a way to generate power. So I have, I'm going to take a, where is this? Manual generator, one of the first options, of course. And then I'm going to put a battery up here as well. And there's a couple of different ways that I had planned this out, but it's going to look something like this, so I don't need to use many ladders to get around. So I'm going to put the battery here on top. Which, there we go. And I'm going to also take a refrigerator, so I can take some good quality food to keep my duplicants' morale up and assure that it's not going to spoil or anything like that. I'm going to also take 2 duplicants on this trip. There's going to be 2 per pod here, so if they get stuck and they all can't get back, then I guess I'm losing 8 duplicants and whatever. That's the cost of our space program. We're a very irresponsible space program, for sure. Alright, so now that I have that stuff set up, let's start actually dumping some of this water out. So if I get water from my bathrooms, I'm just going to dump it on the floor over here, away from my pool of clean water, and it'll just kind of sit here. I'll have duplicants come over here and mop it up every once in a while, which will give me a little bit of extra oxygen. But now the thought is, if I'm producing a bunch of polluted oxygen, shouldn't I be cleaning it? Well, yep, let's add some deodorizers. Alright, let's add one there. I don't know, maybe add one over here as well. Just to make sure we're covering the whole thing. Alright. And then what we need is we need a way to actually cool this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up some liquid pipes here. I'll just set it up maybe something like this. Maybe have it like cycle around my base a little bit whenever it's too hot, which also implies that we're going to use a liquid shutoff. So I'm going to have it send down here. Let's have a shutoff on the side. And this shutoff is only going to activate when the air is too hot. I'm going to try to bring some water in here that's pretty cool, and I think most of the water that I have is pretty cool anyway. Which also reminds me, we need to build a way to actually dump water into here, which is something I may have skipped over. Where did I plan on putting this? This was, I think it was supposed to go right here. Let me just misclick a little bit more. I think I was going to put it right here. Yes, and then their path to the bathroom would be underneath here, because they could go underneath and get to the bathroom like this. And then I was going to add one of these, which is a bottle emptier. I'm just going to bring a bunch of water and carry it in here and empty it out like that. And yes, I'm doing some of this stuff to be kind of intentionally very crowded to make this look pretty silly, because that's the whole idea. I also need a way to load this originally with oxygen. I'm not going to be producing any oxygen from the water that I have, except for the polluted water that comes out and gets dumped on the ground. I will use it for that, but I'm going to go ahead and dump a whole bunch of oxygen in here initially in hopes that it lasts us for a little while. We also might need some supplies, so I'm going to put a storage bin here. We also may need to clean our carbon dioxide if it starts to build up, so let's finish our cooling loop here real quick. I'm just going to send this straight here whenever we need it. I'm going to set up a thermosensor so that if anything ever gets too hot, I'm going to cycle the water to absorb some heat. This will eventually fail, by the way. I don't know how long I'm expecting this to last, but this may last a little while, so we got to be pretty silly. Lastly, we also need to deal with our carbon dioxide, so I'm going to put a carbon skimmer down here. And same thing with this. If I want to just dump it out, I'm just going to dump it out on the ground. So once we use up any of our water from our carbon skimmer, I'm just going to send it right back to the same place and just dump it out. And then also we need an inlet of water to provide water for our carbon skimmer. So I'll just take it from this bathroom runoff. There. So I think this might be it. Let me hook up power really quickly to everything that needs it. Yeah, this is a ridiculous setup, but it's meant to be ridiculous, so I guess mission accomplished here. So there we go. This is what it's going to look like when it's not built yet. I think everywhere is routable. Like, if you have 2 spaces, your duplicates can definitely climb up there, and they only need 1 space to fit through. So I'm pretty sure this all works. If it doesn't, that'll be kind of sad. So, yeah, let's go ahead and see what happens. In the meantime, we can explore some other problems that are happening. I'm going to set this to pretty high priority, so I'll hopefully get a bunch of duplicates in here doing the work pretty soon. And then we can load it up with oxygen, load it up with water, and call it good. But like I mentioned, I'm going to be making 4 of these different setups. And rather than make you guys watch that whole process of setting it up over and over and over, I'll do that in the next video. Also, while I mess around with these seeds that will eat critters and... or rather, these plants that eat critters, which are located... I should have brought some seeds back. Here we go, the Saturn Critter Trap. I'm going to mess around with this a little bit more because just instinctively, if I'm looking at this, the effects are basically plant meat, but it takes a really long time from what I understand. And if I'm feeding them critters, I'm wondering if I can feed them critters that are not ones that I could otherwise produce meat from. So, like, feeding it a Dreco I don't think makes sense because Drecos already produce a lot of good food. The plant meat is weird, though. I don't know what that would be used for in terms of cooking, so we might actually have to build some setups for that also. So I'm going to be messing around with that, and that will definitely come in the next video like I have promised. But yeah, my bad. I didn't even know they existed for a little while, and I had somebody asking me on a bunch of other videos of like, hey, what do you think about this? And what's your opinion on this? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but now we know. Let's see how this is going. Oh yeah, we got a squad going on here. Okay. We want our water to flush if anything is above, I don't know, maybe 90 degrees Fahrenheit? That's pretty warm, by the way. Did we get power hooked up to everything? Yeah, I think so. There are going to be 2 duplicates here. I don't have space for them to sleep in any particular place, so I'm just going to have them sleep on the ground. If we were being really silly, I could maybe have them not use a toilet, and I could have the bedrooms there instead. There's a bunch of different ways you could do this, but I just think it's funny to have a flushable toilet in a spaceship. We definitely need to have that over sleeping, so priorities for sure. By the way, the thing I'm going to be taking in here in this storage bin is just going to be sand. I don't think I need any other resources because I will have water, I will have oxygen, I will have food that I'm going to be making. Also, that's why I'm not going to be doing this right away too. I need to build up a good backup of food so that I can send these guys all out with a whole bunch of barbecue and they'll be happy while they're doing their jobs out here. And I'm going to leave maybe 4 duplicates behind just to keep up the rest of the base. But yeah, this will be interesting. I don't know what to expect. Let's keep adding our engines here, by the way. Some other really minor things that have changed, you might have noticed already, I do have suits for all of my duplicates rather than the metal masks. Suits are definitely way better, which is why getting some of these Drecos or getting thimble reeds is really important. Yeah. I still do need to cool this area down also. Do I have enough cooling? It's not great. I need to have a cooling setup also. Maybe I'll get that done in the meantime, which I've just been a little bit lazy about handling for the time being because I've been spoiled with these really cool geysers of water on this asteroid. But yeah, we'll get to it. Another thing I was doing that was kind of interesting is when I had duplicates that were sitting here, or sorry, here, I actually started sending some oxygen through these gas vents, so I didn't have to produce oxygen here anymore. I did have a rust deoxidizer, but I just decided to do this instead, since I'm already powering anything that I would need to power or to give oxygen to these suits. But yeah, I'm probably going to be producing plastic here because I think the plastic from the Drecos is going to be really slow. And if I have all the excess power from all these solar panels I could build out here, I might as well just do it here instead. So I might do that, and then I might cool the plastic just a little bit and ship it back, so that I have a loop of providing any oxygen to stuff out here, providing any resources that I might need. I'll produce plastic, and then I'll go ahead and ship it right back. I don't know if I'm going to need any cooling on this asteroid, or I could also just send cool liquid through here as well. So maybe I'll do something like that, just to kind of make use of these teleporters a little bit. But yeah, kind of an interesting thing. By the way, I get these, like... I don't know if you guys noticed this, but especially on the base game, if I were to scroll really fast, I'll get these, like, effects overlays that are really weird looking. And I'll get them occasionally when I transition into some of the spaceships and stuff like that. I don't know if you saw that, but there's, like, a big red cloud here. Okay, I'm also going to disable the power here. Well, I don't want to start loading this unless it is powered, so maybe I won't. This is definitely going to be the biggest tax on this. Maybe I'll actually create a bunch of food elsewhere for the time being, like just cache a whole bunch of barbecue, and then I'll load it all up at once. So let's just do that instead. And I think I already have a fridge for this. Yeah. I could use the bleachstone method here, by the way. I did just have somebody asking me about this, but a fridge, especially in this setup where I have basically free power, a fridge is totally fine. I do have some bleachstone, but I don't think I have nearly as much as I would on a normal run, so I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know. But I do need to start stashing a whole bunch of barbecue, and that's what I think I'm going to do from now on. Just stash a whole bunch and then load it all at once so I don't have to keep powering this stuff out here. There we go. I think our setup's done. All right, let's reevaluate this real quick, and let's start filling up some of our water. So I'm going to set this for water. I wish that you could automate these, by the way, so that I could say, like, fill it up until it reaches a certain point. Like, it could reach up to here, for example, before I tell it to stop, but I can't. I also can't really pipe stuff in here, which kind of is a little bit of a bummer, but that's okay. I also need to create up some setups to actually supply oxygen to this, and when my duplicants all leave, I'm just going to turn off my suit area so that they're not wearing suits out here. So this is... it is totally overkill. I don't think I need to do any of this, but I just wanted to see if this was going to work. So yeah, I guess I don't need an airflow tile here, but I don't know why I built it that way. Whatever. Quirk of the system, I suppose. Yeah, and then this is going to be filled up with sand. We can go ahead and just grab some of that right now. Let's see. Filtration medium. We need sand. I'm just going to set it to not as much as this thing could hold. I'm just going to set it to some because I don't want to burn all my sand by potentially stranding all these duplicants out here. Yeah, we're going to start getting these set up. As far as the water, I could potentially set up something really silly to have them automatically pump it, which I think you can just set up a setup really quickly to have them automatically pump it out. What's this water temperature at? Oh, this is already too hot. I'm going to have to cool this before I send it in anyway. This is pretty cold. But yeah, I may just set up a cooling system to get my water out to this also. And then the oxygen I'm also going to need to take out there by just setting up some kind of system to pump it into canisters and then carry the canisters inside here and offload them at this canister emptier. So, this is my setup. And again, I'm going to need to refuel at a bunch of these other places. So that's also going to be part of the setup is I will fly some of these over to other places, refuel them, and then they will take off from those locations. But I think I'm going to have somebody exploring maybe here. I'll have somebody exploring maybe here, and then maybe like here or something. Gonna send them all out at the same time, and again, I'm not gonna care how far the rockets say they can go. If they get stuck out there, then we're gonna attempt rescue missions, and if rescue missions are not a thing, then those duplicants are all gonna die, and I'm just gonna lose everything. Just to add some risk, just to be silly. We don't have to do it that way, but we're just gonna do it. Whatever. Alright, sorry about that. Sometimes I get Discord messages when I'm recording. And I know people have asked for a Discord, by the way. I'm just not quite ready to have one set up, but it will come at some point. But I do get Discord messages sometimes when I'm recording, and that's my fault because I don't close it. But I want to edit those out because that will confuse people that are watching my video if there are Discord noises in there, for sure. So yeah, that's what that random break was about. But yeah, I have set up some of these germ systems, basically anti-food poisoning setups, that I talked about in my germ tutorial recently, which is just these sinks leading into your mess hall, and then storing your food behind all those sinks in some kind of place that will kill all the germs. So I've got that set up here, by the way. It's working pretty well. I also tried to test it out on a little bit more remedial scale, so I did it here on this other asteroid where I didn't have any fancy stuff going on. But the idea is pretty much the same, just a very basic shipping setup. All my food was growing right here. It's not anymore because nobody lives here. They're not providing food to this, but They were just, I had this one little row. I would ship food up here, it would throw it straight into the refrigerator, and then they could go in here. I also added a little improvement where duplicates could only exit out of this door and they couldn't enter, so that might help your routing just a little bit. It's not as big of a deal here because the side is just like an ice biome, and I don't want to open that up, but small little improvement from that video before. But yeah, trying to scan around and see if anything else has changed. Just some boring, like, water maintenance stuff has been going on. A little bit more gas management's been going on. Oh, one other thing. I have no idea why I did not mention anything about this during my germ tutorial. But they're the best way to kill germs, by the way. And this is something that somebody pointed out that I didn't realize had this kind of interaction. Let me clarify. I should have clarified that chlorine is the best way to kill germs if you have a way to do that. The best way to kill it inside another gas or inside another liquid is just to set up something like this, where the liquid flows into one of these containers. You just surround it with chlorine, and look how fast the germs die. We can just see it in real time. I am actually really annoyed that I did not show this in my germ tutorial, so I'm going to probably release something separate. But if you happen to have watched that video and you're watching this now, this is, like, far and away, it's not even close, the best way to kill germs on something. Just have chlorine going into a room like this, have it sit in a tank, and you can do this for solids, you can do it for liquids, and you can do it for gases. They all works the same way. Just have it kill germs like this. I'm really annoyed at myself for not putting that into this, into my tutorial for it. So, yeah, in case you were one of the people that saw that and you're not having a lot of success killing germs, do this. This is way better. It makes usable water in absolutely no time. And you can either harbor the water for a little while until you're able to dump it out, or you could also set up a little bit more complicated setup so that you turn on one tank at a time as soon as it gets full and it's germ-free. There's a lot of stuff you could do with this that I really am annoyed that I did not talk about. Alright, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that we need to talk about here other than future plans, but I think the next video is just going to be all about the exploration missions. We're going to send them all off at the same time. I will have more answers about Saturn critter traps. I'll have my cooling set up good to go, because I need a little bit of cooling in this area already. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, thank you very much for watching. Please leave any comments, suggestions, ideas, whatever you have down below. I am pretty decent about responding to all those comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in another video here very soon. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you later.